Welcome to Fangirl Football. I'm Judy.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Lauren. Welcome to tonight's show. We're diving into week 3, breaking down the upcoming matchups and highlighting the key players to watch. But first, let's kick things off with some standout stats from the first 2 weeks. Passing touchdowns continue to be down this season. Week 1, we saw 35 passing touchdowns, and week 2, 31 passing touchdowns. For some context, the average weekly number of touchdowns for 2021 was just under 47, and for 2022 was just under 42. So the fact that we're in the low 30s is pretty significant difference.
This is true. And if we're going to that theory that everything goes back to average, we're just waiting for that breakout week. And each week we're going to be holding our breath thinking, this is the week we're going to get the passing matchups. I'm not really sure this one's it. I got a couple games I like on passing, but we might still be kind of down.
And then I guess this kind of plays into it a bit of how have the rookies fared this year? I feel like there's more rookie quarterbacks than previously, and maybe that's factoring in a little bit, but how have the rookies done?
So I think we usually have about 3 rookie quarterbacks. The 3 that we have this year, Jaden Daniels with the Washington Commanders, Bo Nix in Denver Broncos, and Caleb Williams with the Chicago Bears. None have thrown a touchdown in any of the games in the first 2 weeks. Jaden Daniels has rushed for 2 and Bo Nix rushed for 1. And Caleb Williams is still waiting to get a touchdown. So no one's doing great, but the NFL on a whole isn't doing great as well. And I wonder if that's a little bit more to do with wide receivers and the wide receiver production. Although our rookie wide receivers are the only group that is kind of showing up. They just didn't seem to get drafted with the quarterbacks. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it and see how our rookies, if they start to get more involved in the game as all these injuries do pop up.
And that brings up a good point, I think, in my mind of what does success look like for these rookie quarterbacks? Since Caleb Williams hasn't had a touchdown yet and we're 2 games in.
Yeah. So to me, what is a successful season for a rookie quarterback? And that would be giving your team a chance to win in more games than losing the game for you. And I feel like Bo Nix has done that. Denver's hanging in those games. They have a good defense and he's not messing up, a tremendous amount. We're not seeing a lot of turnovers. This whole group is keeping their team in there and giving them a chance to win. So I can't say that they're doing poorly.
Are there any running backs that have had any rookie running backs that have had a good start?
The only one we've seen is Braylon Allen with the New York Jets. And that was just because in week 2, he had a really great game and had a couple touchdowns. But other than that, we haven't seen any rookie running backs step up either.
But we have seen tight ends. I've heard a lot about Brock Bowers, I feel like, and getting many targets in Las Vegas for the first 2 weeks.
Yes, Brock Bowers is definitely the rookie tight end that is stepping up in Vegas and taking his share and having great games and helping out his team.
Well, with every injury comes an opportunity for someone to step in and make their name. Let's go through the games and see which ones are most exciting this week.
All right. Well, we're going to start off with the Los Angeles Chargers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I never get too excited to watch the Steelers because it's a defensive game and I always want that offensive shootout. But the Chargers are coming off an easy win against Carolina. And instead of going home, the Chargers stayed in Charlotte for the week and hung out and are staying on the East Coast so they don't have to make that transition again. This has been a successful tactic for teams in previous seasons. So we'll see if it gives the Chargers a little bit of an advantage to be able to stay on the East Coast time. And it's not just staying on that time, but it's kind of like bonding time. It's kind of like summer camp and you don't go home and you get to stay with the players and think even more about football. So they may be a little bit overly prepared for this game against the Steelers. It is the Steelers' first home game of the season. And both teams are 2-0. I don't know that I would have expected that the Chargers and the Steelers would both be 2-0 going into this game. So that's a surprise.
I definitely didn't expect the Steelers to be 2-0. I know I had put Atlanta winning that first week. Justin Fields is going to start for week 3. So, I mean, we might see some good stuff from the Steelers again.
Justin Fields is doing a great job in there at quarterback, and he isn't giving the game away. He's giving his team a chance to win, just like we were just talking about. So I think it's his starting job until he proves that it shouldn't be, which he hasn't done the first 2 weeks.
And when you say giving them a chance to win, you mean like he's not throwing interceptions. He's not taking so long that he's constantly getting sacked and or fumbling or dropping the ball.
Exactly. Yeah.
The basics of being a quarterback. Throw the ball, not interceptions.
Yeah, definitely. So on the other side of the ball, Justin Herbert, he was injured briefly in last Sunday's game, but the x-rays were negative and he just got rolled up on. So hopefully, not having to travel has kind of helped him out as well. Both these teams are going to try to grind out this game, and both defenses have looked good. So the over-under is only 35.5 points on this game. This could be like the 9-3 game.
Kind of glad this isn't the Thursday night game or like the Sunday night game. This is going to be an afternoon, early game. Probably going to just stay quiet on that 4 screen.
Yeah, we won't be watching a lot of this. I don't really like much fantasy-wise here. If you have Dobbins or Warren, be really careful playing them because this could be a very defensive game for both teams.
Who are you picking?
I'm picking the Chargers. I'm still going with that West Coast goes to East Coast, even though they didn't go home, and that they're here and going to play well.
I decided to go with the Steelers. This was a harder one for me to pick. I feel like they're going to be very equal, like we said, 9-3 game maybe. But the Steelers and Justin Fields are having a year so far, and I have good feelings there. Yeah. I was surprised, and I kind of feel like that's going to continue. Let's chat Denver Broncos at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is favored. This isn't supposed to be a super high-scoring game with the over-under at 40, and Tampa Bay is favored by almost a touchdown.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is another surprising 2-0 team here. This is going to be a one-sided game, as the spread's kind of telling us, I think. So Bo Nix, we were talking about him. He's had a bit of a rough start. He's thrown 2 interceptions per game this season. So that is, luckily his defense is keeping them in the game. He's also been sacked 4 times this year. And on the other hand, Baker Mayfield is having a breakout year, having 5 touchdown passes in the first 2 weeks and a rushing touchdown. Baker's been fun to watch, and Godwin is Mayfield's most dependable target at the moment, but the Broncos have the 4th ranked pass defense and 23 ranked rush defense. And the Broncos aren't giving up a lot of points, averaging just under 20 points a game. Tampa Bay may need to rely on their running game, which is a little bit weaker for the Broncos, but we've also seen that if you're doing well rushing, then you can open it up a little bit more passing. They do have an injury the Tampa Bay Bucs have an injury with Rachaad White. He is questionable with a growing injury, and it's not considered major, but still that's something that we'll have to watch as the week goes on. And we just may see more of rookie Bucky Irving, who is getting to kind of step into that role. And each week we're seeing him more involved in the Tampa Bay Bucs game. So we'll see how that comes into play here, especially against this Broncos defense that's weaker against the rushing attack.
With how Bo Nix has thrown a couple of interceptions, do you see that maybe Tampa Bay's offense doesn't have to work as hard if we get another interception this week and the Bucs defense can run it?
Definitely. Tampa Bay is only allowing 18 points a game, but they're giving up yards on the passing game. So Bo Nix is going to need to throw it to stay in this game, probably. It's interesting that they're matching up against the other teams, how they match up against the weaknesses there and how they're going to have to use different skills than they normally want to use. I expect both teams are going to try to establish the run, but whoever can push it downfield on the passing game is going to open up the game. I only like Mike Evans really in the fantasy game because I know they've had Godwin, but I think the Broncos are going to do a pretty good job of covering Godwin, and they're going to have to really push it downfield and open up that game to get that running game to open up as well. This is kind of a sneaky game to me. I like Tampa Bay a lot, but unless Bo Nix starts throwing interceptions, I don't think they'll cover the 6.5 point spread. I just like both defenses in this game.
I think both of us are picking the Bucs then.
We're both picking the Bucs because luckily we don't have to pick against the spread.
Nope, we don't.
In this game. All right, let's move on to another game that's not so exciting. The Green Bay Packers at the Tennessee Titans. So the Packers are 1-1 and the Titans are 0-2. The big question here is, will we see Jordan Love return from his MCL sprain? And today on Wednesday, Love returned to practice, which is a really good sign. He's going to play on Sunday, which is shocking because I think we all thought he was out pretty much 3 to 4 games, and he only missed 1 game so far. Otherwise, we're going to have Malik Willis at quarterback, who would be returning to the Titans, a team that just traded him at the end of August. The Packers didn't need Malik Willis to do much in week 2 as they ran all over the Colts.
And on the other side, Will Levis isn't getting it done.
No, he's not. I can see the frustration building there. It'll be interesting. Green Bay defense has allowed 200-plus yard rushing games the first 2 weeks, but that was to Saquon Barkley and to Jonathan Taylor. And Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears are not Barkley and Taylor. And Tyjae Spears is questionable with an ankle injury. So they need to run against the Packers, but I don't know that they can.
They have Ridley who can run. I guess it just really comes back to, can Levis get the ball to his wide receivers then? Or to his tight ends?
Yeah, maybe they'll start. It's been an interesting strategy that we've seen. We started last year, and I feel like it's been really developed a lot more this year, which is running plays for your wide receivers that are designed to open up that space and have people in motion. And they're working really well. They're fun to watch. So we may see Ridley doing some of that to try to take advantage of that running game on the Packers. I think this game, though, comes down to how healthy is Jordan Love, and can he be effective in that offense? I feel like we've seen it a few too many times where somebody comes back before they should, and then they have a really disastrous game.
I am really surprised that he's practicing and I guess I can see him practicing, but I think I'd be really surprised to see him play the game. It's one thing to start practicing and get out on the field. It's another to be under the stress, and the Titans defense hasn't been bad. It's been very good against the Jets and Chicago. Like you said, I would hate to see Jordan Love come back partially healthy or what they think is healthy enough and then just to get injured again.
Yeah. So who are you picking?
I guess I have to go with Tennessee. I think they're going to be able to at least kick the ball enough. I mean, Washington won last weekend with what?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I'm doubting the health of Love. And I'm going Tennessee as well. I don't know. This is a tough game and not one that we should linger on because it's not super relevant at this point in the season.
So let's move on to the New York Giants at the Cleveland Browns, which also might not be that great of a game. We have a 0-2 team against a 1-1 team, and the Browns had an ugly loss in week 1 to Dallas and then beat the Jaguars somehow in week 2. I'm going to owe it up to a lot of the Browns defense having been very good.
Yeah, they have been good. They haven't given up more than 13.3 FanDuel points to any position. The Browns held the Browns held ATN to 52 rushing yards last week. And on the other side of the ball, the New York Giants and Malik Neighbors had it going on in week 2, and Neighbors had 127 yards on 10 catches and a touchdown, but they played the Washington Commanders, one of the weakest, if not the weakest defenses in the league. I think you can only slide Carolina Panthers in under the Washington Commanders. The Giants, on the other side, have allowed the most points to the running back position in both weeks, which is not exactly, I don't know. I don't think the Browns have a strength right now, but I guess we could see a lot of Ford rushing the ball in this game. This game just isn't fun. The Giants and Daniel Jones find ways to lose games, and I think the Browns at home is just going to be more than the Giants can handle.
This is another game where part of me wonders, well, I guess with how weak the Giants are, I don't think they're going to, with how weak the Giants defense has been, I don't think the Browns are going to need to kick 9 field goals to win or anything. But I'm going to have to go with Cleveland here just based on the Giants find ways to lose games and their defense isn't there. But the Browns is.
I agree. That's the only bright spot for the Browns. I can't really say a lot about their offense either, but they haven't found ways to exactly lose games like the Giants have. All right, let's move on. We've got a lot of non-exciting games, right here too. Chicago Bears 1-1 against the Indianapolis Colts at 0-2. The Colts allowed over 200 rushing yards last week to the Green Bay Packers. Oh my gosh, it was so frustrating to watch that game. And I don't know how the Bears coming in is going to play out for that rushing game. The Colts defense has got so many injuries, and it is another one of those defenses that you seem to be able to do whatever you want to against them. The Bears coach, Matt Eberflus, is returning to Indy, where he was the defensive coordinator up until taking the Bears head coaching job. And apparently the Colts still need a defensive coordinator because it's not going real well right now.
Yeah, I kind of can't believe that how much the Colts defense allowed for rushing yards. Were they better at stopping passes, or did Green Bay just not try to really pass?
Yeah, they had Malik Willison, so they weren't even trying to pass. They were just running as much as they could. But anytime they got outside, they just ran down the field. So we have the Bears coming in, and DeAndre Swift, the Bears running back, is due to have a good game. He is a talented running back, and he hasn't had a good game. This is the week where I'm really on all the players that haven't succeeded, that should have succeeded, and waiting for them to come back to their average. And so DeAndre Swift is one of them. He's going to get a good chance, I feel like, against the Colts. The Colts are favored but only by 1.5, and they're at home, so they're not even getting quite their real home field advantage. But Chicago, there's probably enough Bears fans coming to the game anyway. The cities are so close. The Colts are getting Josh Downs, their wide receiver, back, but Anthony Richardson is going to have to stop turning the ball over. He had 3 interceptions in week 2. He can't do that this week, or the Bears are going to take big time advantage of it because the Bears defense has been delivering.
Bears defense has kept him in the game at times.
It definitely has. Other key injuries: Chicago, Keenan Allen didn't practice again on Wednesday, and he missed week 2. Sounds like he's not going to probably be there again this weekend.
So is this the weekend that Caleb Williams gets his passing touchdown?
Passing or rushing? He might get a rushing touchdown. He can run, and that seems to be the easier way to do it against the Colts than passing. So I'm actually picking Chicago. I don't know what's going to happen to the Colts.
I'm going to go with you with Chicago.
The Colts defense isn't there, and their offense hasn't shown up either. It's found ways to lose the game as well. And when you've got both sides of your ball losing games, you're in trouble.
But let's move on to a 2-0 team against a 2-0 team, which should be a bit more interesting. The Houston Texans at the Minnesota Vikings. Both teams starting 2-0, with the Vikings 2-0 being a surprise to me. They had a surprise win in week 2 over the 49ers and are 19-0 when they have more turnovers than the opponents.
But CJ Stroud hasn't thrown an interception this year, and the Texans have only lost one fumble. So will the turnovers be relevant in this game? Clearly, that's an average on turnovers. And is this the week that, the Texans go back to average? Because I'm going to say that again. Clearly, only having one turnover in week 3 of the season is probably, above average statistically. So is this a week we see the Texans have a couple turnovers and get back to average on that stat line as well? And then we can see if the Vikings can go 20-0 if they don't turn the ball over.
We have a couple of Houston injuries that might lead to a turnover or two, maybe. Mixon was not at practice on Wednesday, and then Damian Pierce has a hamstring injury going on and not at practice either.
Yeah, so both of their running backs. Not sure who's up after both of those running backs. Who will we see? So next up on their list, well, they have Cam Akers as well. So we could be seeing more Cam Akers, and then they have a couple players I've never heard of. So I hope one of these two ends up playing with. I think this comes down to, can the Vikings stop Nico Collins? Nico Collins has been on a tear and having great games, but on the other side of the ball, can the Texans stop Justin Jefferson? And do we just see a shootout from both of these teams that are both lacking running backs, and both defenses have been good, but they still do give up points?
So both teams have a above average offense and average defenses.
Yeah, wow. We just called the Vikings offense above average. Congratulations, Sam Darnold.
Not to mention, we were talking about the Viking curse, 2.5 weeks ago?
Yeah, maybe it's over and they can move on from that.
I'm picking Houston. I just think that offense is still a bit stronger, but I think if Minnesota pulls it out and wins, I will be amazed. I might just have to root for them for the rest of the season and maybe start saying Super Bowl.
I agree. If they beat the Texans, I will be super surprised. I'm going to go with the Texans as well. It is an interesting game, though. I'm a little worried on the Justin Jefferson quad injury. I know he was at practice on Wednesday and he did his walkthrough, and Jordan Addison is still questionable. Their other wide receivers. So those injuries have me a little bit concerned. At least the Texans wide receivers are all healthy. And I know Justin Jefferson can go out there and play, but he did leave the 49er game and didn't come back in. So I think that injury is a little bit more than maybe we're being told about. All right. So let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles at the New York. All right. So let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 1-1, at the New Orleans Saints, 2-0. We got another 2-0 shocker here with the New Orleans Saints. Kamara's week 2 against the Cowboys, 3 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown and 180 total yards. No, that was just stunning to watch Kamara run and do whatever he wanted to against the Dallas Cowboys. We discounted the Saints week 1 win because it was the Carolina Panthers, but the way they handled the Cowboys was stunning.
And on the other side, the Eagles have produced 2 games that went down to final drives, and against Green Bay and Atlanta, only winning 1 and losing 1. And so I don't feel like the Eagles defense or offense has really shown stopping a lot of points against them or scoring a lot of points against opposing teams, especially that Atlanta one, which I don't think anyone quite... Eagles were favored. I don't think anyone expected Atlanta. I loved that. It was wonderful as an Atlanta fan.
It was shocking. The Saints are just getting it done with Kamara, which is going to be interesting because I believe he's a free agent next year. So I think he just wants to have this crazy season, and then he's going to be a little bit older than we like our running backs. But at the same time, will he get paid? On the Saints side, Chris Olave has been super quiet. The plays have been going to Kamara and Rashid Shaheed, the wide receiver in New Orleans, and Chris Olave, who we drafted a little bit higher than we probably should have, it seems like, has been very quiet.
It was nice to see Jamal Williams get a touchdown week 1. He was someone I had picked up or I had thought about early in preseason. And while I am always glad to see Kamara getting to run, and especially against the Cowboys, that was just a great game.
Yeah, I just kept going, is he doing it again or is that a replay? It's like, oh my gosh, Kamara's doing it again. There was a lot of that going on in the house on Sunday. New Orleans
on the other side too. On the other side too, New Orleans defense has been solid, only giving up 4 receptions and 90 yards to CeeDee Lamb. So it's not like they really let Cowboys push back.
No. The injury concerns in this game, A.J. Brown with his hamstring injury, he's doubtful. He didn't play week 2. We probably won't see him in week 3 as well. And then this one surprised me. I missed this one for the New Orleans Saints. Taysom Hill avoided a major injury to his chest, but he did end up at the hospital on Monday having more tests. And they said he's still questionable, but I missed that he left with an injury. And so he does play that role transitioning between tight end and quarterback for them and gives them kind of a more dynamic player on the field for certain plays. And then a bunch of their defense has got the Q tag on them as well, which may give Philadelphia a little bit of a chance to see if they can make it a close game again. But I'm going to pick the Saints in this one. Apparently I was just wrong on the Saints, and until they prove that they deserve something different, I think I'll just pick them.
I'm joining you on the Saints. I will say I'm hopeful with the defense, with a bunch of them being questionable. I know you and I have different stances on how much to read into injury tagging.
This is true.
But I tend to go a bit more conservative, where if I see that cue, I'm kind of like, well, even if they've played, they won't be 100%.
A lot of them are 100%. The teams don't have to tell you everything that's going on. So they'll put a Q tag on them and nothing really is wrong.
Of games that we would love to postpone until more players are healthy, Miami Dolphins at Seattle Seahawks this weekend. Miami Dolphins are 1-1. Seattle is 2-0. Seattle's favored. I think that just makes sense with the fact Tua's on IR.
Yeah.
Hopefully recovering and getting better.
Tua is on IR, and now we get to learn exactly who is Skylar Thompson. He was drafted 7th round by the Dolphins in 22. So this is his 3rd season. He has his own injury history and has only started 3 games in the NFL. And of those 3 games, he only finished 2 because he got hurt in one of them. He didn't play any in 2023 because Tua was healthy. The games he did play were in the 22 season. And his completion percentage in those 3 games is 52%. He threw 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in those 3 games. So the Seahawks could just have a little feast on defense against Skylar Thompson.
I mean, we saw how the Seattle defense was against Bo Nix a couple weeks ago, where you stared a little too long in the direction and the Seahawks caught it and ran it back.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Dolphins are going to try to rely on their running game, but they still have Raheem Mostert is injured with a chest injury. He was out in week 2. He was present at practice today, but I think it was more just, a walkthrough. So we'll see if he can play because they're really going to try to run the ball more. But maybe we're going to get to see Tyreek Hill running the ball. That kind of sounds fun. Or Jalen Waddle.
Do you like any of the players for this game? DK or Charbonnet, since Walker is out?
Well, Walker is questionable, so maybe he's going to play this week. I know you're a Seahawks fan, and I don't get real on the Seahawks side of the ball. The Seahawks are going to lean on the passing game because of their injuries, I feel like, at running back. I like Kenneth Walker, and if he's in here, I like him to have a decent day, but Charbonnet doesn't impress me. I just haven't seen anything big out of him and explosive, so I haven't been on the Charbonnet bandwagon, and I think that Miami's going to have some tricks up their sleeve, which may be fun to watch in this game. All that said, I'm still picking the Seahawks. They're at home.
I'm picking the Seahawks too. I think that's an easy pick from me, though I will have a much more difficult one later on in our lineups here. Another not as exciting game, so we might cover it very, very quickly. The Carolina Panthers at the Las Vegas Raiders. Panthers haven't looked great this year, and last weekend they benched Bryce Young.
Hello, Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
So Dalton gives the Panthers a chance. This is kind of exciting. The Panthers have a chance this week where it was a certain loss with Bryce Young, in my opinion. Andy Dalton opens up their running game. So I think that we could see something from Chuba Hubbard here, and he's due to have a good day. And now they actually have to respect that somebody is behind there that could actually pass the ball where Bryce Young couldn't, and he couldn't make a decision either. And Andy Dalton gives the Panthers that chance. Is this going to be like last year where no one saw Adam Thielen coming in as having a great day and wide receiver wise? And maybe we see more Adam Thielen and Andy Dalton combinations again this week. I'm going to have to look where Thielen's priced in daily fantasy and maybe take a chance that he repeats with Andy Dalton.
I was going to say, Andy Dalton previously was the quarterback, or what? How does Andy Dalton fit in with the Panthers?
So last year, I don't remember if they started Bryce Young initially, but Andy Dalton ended up taking over. Actually, I think Andy Dalton was the starting quarterback, and Bryce was supposed to sit on the bench until Andy Dalton got hurt, I think. And then once Andy Dalton got in there, then it was all Andy Dalton, and he kept passing to Adam Thielen. And we were all surprised where Adam Thielen came from and all of his fantasy points. So we could see that again. Otherwise, everyone's running on the Panthers. So I expect the Raiders to try to run against the Panthers. The reason that they're probably all running on the Panthers is they just want the game to be over with quickly. But finally, is this going to be Zamir White's day for Las Vegas? He is another running back that we expected to be very involved, and he's been extremely quiet in Las Vegas. Or do we see more Brock Bowers, the tight end, which is what we've seen up to this point?
Or do we see a balance and no one has a stellar day? Everyone has a good day. Moderate amount of points, but we decide to use everyone because we can.
They may do that. They may have lots of interceptions in this game on both sides of the ball, and who knows what happens. Anyway, I'm going to go with the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders too.
All right. We're both on the Raiders. So
49ers, LA Rams next.
Rams are looking for a win, but probably not happening this week.
I mean, the 49ers are still missing McCaffrey, and Debo is listed as doubtful, but the Rams are missing Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. And I just see a lot of extra injuries on the Rams side, for a safety being on an IR, a guard being on an IR, tight end questionable. I mean, the Rams are hurting.
The Rams are hurting, and the Rams need to be better than they were last week against the Cardinals. They gave up big plays to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray, and they also allowed James Conner to run up 122 yards in that game as well. The Cardinals could do whatever they wanted. Both of these teams are coming off of a loss and looking to get a win and gain some momentum. So, who's going to be able to do it? On the Rams, they've got to have somebody step up as wide receiver. And we've got Demarcus Robinson up next. And he's actually been really good on yards per route run. I had missed kind of how much he had played in the first two games. And next up is also Tyler Johnson, and he also played considerably in the first two games. They just weren't the primary targets, with Kupp and Puka Nacua being there. But now that they've lost both of them, they're going to go to these two guys and see how much they can be effective. This game could surprise us. I feel like if the Rams coach Sean McVay can keep his team motivated, I feel like it's very hard when you have significant injuries like this to keep the remaining players motivated unless they're trying to step up and play that bigger role so that they can be seen. And I don't know that we have those types of players here at the Rams, but it would not surprise me if the Rams actually did keep this extremely competitive and potentially win this game. I certainly don't like the 7-point spread. I think that's too much in this game as well, given they've got injuries on both sides of this ball.
Both sides to key people that kind of would impact the weakness of the other team.
Yeah.
It feels like, for the other team's defense. I'm 100% with you on, I don't agree with that spread.
No. So who are you picking?
I'm still picking the 49ers. Yeah, they're missing key players, but I think they're going to be able to execute against the Rams defense better than the Rams are going to get to execute against the 49ers defense.
I initially picked the Rams. Now I'm going back to the 49ers. This is like the game that I'm having the hardest time with because just both sides seem to have key injuries. And I don't know how it's going to play out. And I don't particularly love one defense over the other. I used to like the 49er defense until the whole Vikings situation last week. So I guess I'm going to pick the 49ers. I'm going to change and pick the 49ers, and we'll go there.
Another game where both teams lost last week and are looking for a win. Baltimore Ravens at the Dallas Cowboys. Ravens are 0-2 this year so far, and Dallas Cowboys are 1-1 and coming off of that embarrassing game with the Saints.
Yeah, we thought both of these teams would probably be 2-0 going into this game. The Ravens have dropped two close ones to the Chiefs, and then last week, that last-minute loss to the Raiders was disturbing. We saw the Saints just run all over the Dallas defense. And Lamar Jackson could do the same here. I'm not sure Derrick Henry can do it. He can do it at the goal line, but I haven't been very impressed with Derrick Henry like I thought I was going to be this year. But Lamar could definitely do some damage if the Cowboys are going to let him run like they let Kamara run. Baltimore, on the other side, gave up 110 yards to Devontae Adams. And you can be sure that CeeDee Lamb's going to look to do the same thing, if not more, and get right in his stats because he's pretty far behind for the year as well. So is it going to be Lamb's big day? Or is the lack of a running game in Dallas and their tight end, Jake Ferguson, that's still hurt, is that going to catch up with Dallas and cause them to not be in this game?
I feel like it really limits them on targets, which enables the defense to really narrow down on who they're focusing on and covering and shut down big plays.
I agree. I think we saw the Ravens give, week one against the Chiefs, give up some big plays to Xavier Worthy and Rice, the wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs. So it could be a little bit more like that game. I know that the Ravens are going to look to stop all the holes. The thing that disturbs me with the Ravens is they just haven't generated any offense.
They've kept it close, but they haven't been able to really build those runs and scores. I mean, yeah, we're talking about they kept it close for the Chiefs. Raiders, I think we were all a little bit more surprised. We were expecting Baltimore to kind of walk over them pretty easily, and that wasn't what we saw. I know we saw more of Andrews last weekend. Are we going to see Andrews and Likely come back and it be more like the Chiefs game, or is it going to be CeeDee Lamb's big day?
I'm going with CeeDee Lamb's big day and the Cowboys on this one until Baltimore can show me that they can actually get in the end zone. I'm not going to buy into it.
I'm going to buy into it just because of the week last weekend that Kamara had. Running, and between Lamar running, and maybe no one is afraid of Derrick Henry this year, but between Lamar, Likely, Andrews, and Henry, someone is going to get down that field.
Probably true. It could be a fun game to watch. We'll see. So speaking of one that should be a fun game to watch, we've got the Detroit Lions, who are 1-1, going to the Arizona Cardinals, who are also 1-1. And this should be our fun game with offensive scoring of the week. It's carrying a 51.5 over under, and Detroit's favored by 3, which is a little bit surprising to me since the Cardinals are at home and they just looked like they dominated last week. But Detroit is coming off the loss to Tampa Bay, and Arizona is coming off the big win. And do we get kind of that big win hangover where they're just celebrating too much and they forget to actually play football? So that could be what happens in this week. We'll see. Arizona hasn't given much up other than letting Josh Allen run on them in week 1, and they haven't allowed over 14 fantasy points other than to Allen to any single player in weeks 1 and 2. Detroit should try to control the game using running backs Montgomery and Gibbs and try to keep the ball away from Arizona so they can't have those explosive plays at the beginning of the game that we saw last week against the Rams with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr.
I remember that week 1 game with Josh Allen, and we were all really surprised we didn't see more passing. And I guess it was really just Arizona shutting down those routes. And I don't feel like we've seen a ton of passing from Detroit this season so far. I feel like Amon-Ra St. Brown has been expected to have larger games than we have seen.
He was targeted 18 times last weekend, I think.
Okay.
So, and I think he had 10 catches. Amon-Ra was a big part of that game last week, but they were always a little bit behind. They were never in. It was always a competitive game, and they had to use Amon-Ra to stay close. And then Amon-Ra got hurt, and then Amon-Ra left, and then Amon-Ra came back. So I think they're saying that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be fine this week. But again, this is one of those that you would question, how healthy is he? And are they going to need their big wide receiver, or can they control this game on the ground and keep the ball away from Arizona? Detroit defense is giving up more than the Arizona defense. Detroit allowed Cooper Kupp and Chris Godwin to have big days against them. And now we're asking them to stop Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray and James Conner. Trey McBride, the tight end for Arizona, has been somewhat quiet in the first 2 games. So we could see him get more involved this week. He did have a rushing touchdown last week, but I can see him being used a little bit more to open up a little bit more of the shorter game if needed in this one. This one should be fun.
I think this one will be fun too. I originally was leaning towards Detroit, but I think with how we've talked through this and just how strong Arizona has been, I'm going to have to switch to Arizona for my pick for this one.
I'm going with Arizona too. So they're at home, and Detroit's going East Coast to West Coast. They do get to play a 4 o'clock game, which is like a 1 o'clock game, but still, you've got that travel, it messes you up a little bit. And I just kind of like what Arizona's got going on right now. So we'll see if they can keep it as much fun to watch. Next up, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Atlanta Falcons. So this is Sunday night football. And the Falcons got a Monday night game and now a Sunday night game. I don't know what they did to get that. Usually you got to do a little bit better than the Falcons have played in the last couple seasons, but somehow they pulled off Monday night and Sunday night on back-to-back weeks. This one's an unusual matchup, I feel like, with the Chiefs and the Falcons. Got an AFC team and an NFC team, and I guess it's their year to play that conference. So Kansas City's going on the road and leaving their home officiating crew at home, which I think for the first 2 weeks, everyone's been a little bit skeptical of some of the calls that have been made leading to both of the Kansas City wins.
You said home officiating crew. Does the officiating crew belong to...
They don't.
Okay. No. Okay.
They get randomly assigned, but it seemed like a home officiating crew. So that was just me titling them that.
Oh, that makes sense. I completely agree. I just thought, I'm glad we cleared that up. So if anyone else was curious, officiants are randomly assigned.
Well, it's not quite random, but there are lots of rules on how they're assigned, but it's not that they always have this crew. So the Kansas City defense has been good. They did let Lamar Jackson run 122 yards on them, but there's no way that Kirk Cousins will be running a yard on them probably. And Atlanta pulled out the big win on Monday night, but the offense has been disappointing. And Bijan hasn't had a 100-yard game yet. He almost got there on Monday night, but he wasn't quite there. I think we all expected more from the Atlanta offense this year than we've gotten at this point. It kind of just feels like Arthur Smith is still there, and I want the Atlanta offense to step up and do something. And I feel like if they don't do it against the Chiefs, I don't know if they'll be in this game.
Yeah, I think that Atlanta's defense has been good, and I think the defense is going to keep them in the game. I hope that we see some great things from the Atlanta offense. We saw some great passes and runs on, not runs. We saw some great passes on Monday against the Eagles. But this is two defenses that have looked good. So, and what they looked good against what the Chiefs didn't look good against was not the passing, it was the running from Baltimore. So,
at least from Lamar. I mean, Derrick Henry couldn't run at all against them.
True.
The problem is Kansas City's losing running backs. They lost Isaiah Pacheco. He's now on IR with a broken fibula. They've got Hollywood Brown out on IR. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their other running back, is still on IR for a couple more weeks as well. And they're going to have either Samaje Perine step up or rookie Carson Steele. And so far, we haven't seen them step into that big role, but they're going to get the opportunity. And this is the game they're going to have to do it. Now, when I'm picking this game, we again do have two defenses that look good, but by far the better offense goes to the Chiefs. And so I've got to pick Kansas City in this game.
If I'm picking for winning and betting, I have to go with the Chiefs. Like we said, stronger offense, even missing two running backs and a wide receiver. Even if you are missing Pacheco and Helaire and Brown, you still have other awesome talent, and that's just significantly stronger than what we've been seeing from Atlanta so far this season.
Yeah,
so, as a fan, I will be rooting for Atlanta, and I'm making that very clear that I want Atlanta to win.
And I'm just starting to wonder, are Drake London and Kyle Pitts just bad? We thought they were really good. We thought they were going to take the NFL by storm and, be these great rookies. And then it didn't happen. We're like, oh, you're a rookie. We're giving you a pass. And then it didn't happen. And Then we're like, it's Arthur Smith. And we've had excuse after excuse. But now I'm kind of wondering what's wrong. Are they just not as talented as we thought they were?
I think this weekend I'll be watching a little closer to see, are London and Pitts ending up covered a lot? Like, what are the routes they're actually running? Because I'm curious now, and I haven't really been watching so close to know that. But they're not getting the targets or the touches that we expected them to, the points we expected them to.
So we're on to Monday night. We get a treat this next Monday night. We've got 2 games on Monday night. First, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Buffalo Bills, and I think it starts around 7. Bills at home on Monday night. I'm not going to pick against that. I can just go Bills right now. That's kind of all you need to tell me, and I'll go Bills. But we should see more of running back James Cook, who had a great week 2 with 3 rushing touchdowns. And we'll be watching to see if Josh Allen can get more out of his wide receivers this week and get them more involved. Jacksonville did give up 239 yards to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in week 1. So can Josh Allen pull something out of his wide receivers and have fun and play that game this week?
I don't feel like we've seen a ton of passing from Josh Allen yet this year. So I'm hoping this is the game. I want to see a bunch of passing.
Yeah, I do too. We just haven't gotten it. We've just seen a lot of running by Josh Allen and James Cook. And we would really like to see some more passing in this offense. So maybe that's what they try to do this week. Buffalo did allow Devon Achane to run up 26 fantasy points in week 2. So on the Jacksonville side, can Travis Etienne step up and lead the Jaguars? I don't think so.
Can they keep it close? Do you think the spread's going to be covered?
I think the Bills cover this spread. Yeah, over-under is 45.5, and the spread is 5 points, Buffalo by 5 points. And I just haven't been impressed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They just seem like a very average team.
I didn't expect Jacksonville to be 0-2 this year so far. I think I put them a little higher up than I'm seeing. And like you said, Bills at home on a Monday night. Not many people are going to pick against that.
It's kind of scary because of all of the AFC South that we talked about. The AFC South, other than the Texans, are all 0-2. And I think we just picked them all to go 0-3.
I think we did. Ooh.
Yeah. Bad day to be in the NFC South.
We also picked the Texans to go 3-0.
Yeah. Texans might take that division early. We'll see. Anyhow, so the last game on the week is the Washington Commanders at the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm again excited for this one, probably overly so. Over-under is 47.5, and the point spread is 7.5 for Cincinnati. I don't feel like we've seen anything out of Cincinnati to justify giving them 7.5 points. I know everybody is all on the Commanders' defense is really weak, but the Commanders' offense has stayed in these games as well. So 7.5 points. I guess this is the week that Jamar Chase gets right and Joe Burrow, and maybe we see T. Higgins actually play is what they're speculating here by this point spread. I don't know. The Bengals had the heartbreaking loss against the Chiefs last week, so maybe they're counting on them just being angry. The Bengals defense has been good and not allowed more than 20 fantasy points to any player. Week 1, they allowed Week 1, they allowed the Patriots running back Stevenson to rush for 120 yards. And that's been like the most they've given up to anybody. They haven't faced a running quarterback like Jaden Daniels. So that's going to be interesting to see how the Commanders do match up. And this is another game where we've got the NFC coming to play an AFC game. And those are always different because the teams don't see each other very often. unless they're meeting in the Super Bowl, which they still don't see each other very often. So it's not quite the rotation that you get playing in your own conference. So they'll have something new in this game to have to look at. Running back Brian Robinson Jr. for the Commanders has looked really good, racked up 133 rushing yards in week 2, but it was against the Giants, who also don't have a great defense. The Washington defense, though, they're weak, but they're not like Carolina weak. But they did allow Malik Neighbors to get 26 plus fantasy points, and Mike Evans, they gave up 20 points to him too. So the weakness looks to be on the passing side of the ball. Those were the top points that they've allowed. And if that's the case, then maybe we're seeing Jamar Chase finally. I thought we were going to see him last week against the Chiefs.
Has Jamar Chase just been blocked out? Like, his route's been covered mostly, or are we seeing it that it's going on the offensive line and Burrow side?
I think last week against the Chiefs, they were able to double cover Jamar Chase. Without T. Higgins in there, there's not another threat. And so the teams have been able to just double cover him. Obviously, the Washington defense isn't going to be as good at doing that. Kansas City has a defense, a very good defense. So we won't see the Commanders being able to do that. And I do expect that Jamar Chase will have a big game here.
I agree. I especially hearing that it was coverage, and that kind of puts it on the defense to me, which Washington allowing Malik Neighbors to get 26.7 fantasy points. Maybe that's going to be Jamar Chase this week.
Yeah, I think so. I'm picking Cincinnati.
I'm picking Cincinnati. That's all of the games then. After Monday night's Washington Commanders and Cincinnati Bengals, that'll be week 3 all done. We hope we've given you plenty to think about as you gear up for week 3. Best of luck with your picks and enjoy all the action on game day. Visit our website, fangirlfootball.com. If you want to join our free contest, our links will be on our homepage as well as our daily fantasy site. And we'd love to have you join us in daily fantasy for this week's games. See you next time.